Good evening to everybody. It's 5 to 6, a few minutes to go before we start our official performance, just to welcome you all and to assure you in the right place. And this broadcast, or the session at least, live stream is live. Always checking that it's running and that giving you all time to settle in, that you're all in the right place, that it's all on the right streams, and that everything is working 100%, we hope. If you are not sure, if you probably are watching at one of these various platforms and channels already, so if you're not sure, it's on Facebook at my page, Christopher Daigan Pianist, on my private page, Music Revival, as well as the Cape Classic Music Festival, and also through the Tatham Art Gallery, who have agreed, as our concerts take place there on a monthly basis, to share our live stream performances as well. And also on YouTube and Vimeo, and they're also embedded at our Music Revival website, which is very exciting. And everything is in one place at Music Revival. Also very exciting news, yesterday we launched our new Patreon channel. Patreon is a very exciting platform that allows you as subscribers to be patrons of Music Revival, or myself, Christopher Daigan, by pledging a monthly amount. And once you've done this, you actually then have access to a number of different forms of information, which I will be adding to this. At the moment, there's only one or two things, including a preview of a new video, which I recorded with a colleague of mine in England. We did one of these split channel performances, and it's come out very, very well. So if you'd like to have a look at that, it is available already there, but it will be released to our other platforms very, very soon. And then I will also be using this platform at Patreon to share some more personal insights and background videos of how all the setup here works, how the studio works. I'll be doing a project with a detailed video, practice video you might say, sort of a work in progress of a big project that I've been working on for some years, and I'm hoping to bring to fruition later this year, and that is to perform and record the complete Chopin Etudes Opus 10. And so I'm going to be doing a detailed session on each of the etudes about how I've approached it, how I practice it, how I can or can't play it. I'm not expecting each of these to be perfect at this point, but each video will give you a little insight into what the work is about. And I'll also be talking for the Saturday performances, the in-concert performances, talking a little bit more in depth about some of the pieces that I'll be playing there, giving a more guided insight, and then also some writing and blog about some of the insights and details of things like live streaming, promoting your own concerts in this country, what it's like, and the various aspects that I've developed and can share the knowledge that I've gained as Music Revival the last 20, I'm not sure how many years it is now, 23 years I think, 22 years this year of Music Revival, and how that has worked and the knowledge that I've gained. So if you'd like to know more about those things, the best is to really to sign up at Patreon. It's about 200 rand a month, South African rand, or $11. But that does give you access to all of the information which will be coming out weekly. That's going to be supporting us also with continuing these free live streams. So it's a way of buying a monthly ticket, if you might say, to all of our productions, including the live streams, which we hope to be keeping free during this current very uncertain time globally. I'm going to just finish opening up the piano and doing the final setup, and then we'll start the performance at 6 o'clock, which is in about 5 seconds, I see. So I'll be quick. Okay. That seems to all be working. Right, well, if you've just joined us, good evening and welcome to this next live stream in our series, Christopher Daigan at Home. It's with myself, Christopher Daigan, at my home in Pietermaritzburg, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. I know we've got many international viewers, and this is where we are currently in self-isolation, lockdown, and I've been doing a number of these performances for the last 5 weeks or so. It's been a very exciting project and we look forward to continuing for some time. So this evening's performance, the Thursday production, Piano Hour, I tried to compile a selection of music from different backgrounds and different genres, perhaps different cultures, different parts of the world, and piece these together in a very, very varied and I think quite interesting way. It provides much contrast and hopefully some entertainment and upliftment as well. I've opened up the piano and taken the music stand out. You see, I normally cover the piano with a cloth. I keep my piano closed and certainly covered with, insulated almost with a nice blanket. We live in a very varied climate in this part of the world with high humidity and then quite cold winters. So pianos really do take a strain, and I try to keep it all insulated as much as I can. I am going to start this evening's program with a very beautiful sonata by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart from the sonata in C major, K545, the K referring to the catalogue number of a Mr. Köchel, who catalogued all Mozart's compositions from number 1 being the first piece that Mozart wrote when he was 5 or 6 years old, to K620 or something, I think, which is the last pieces that he wrote in the last months of his life. And so this identifies each composition so we know exactly which piece we're talking about. The sonata in C major K545 is one of the pieces that Mozart supposedly wrote in a simpler, lighter, easier way for his students. This is the first movement, a very well-known piece to start this evening's program. first movement, the Allegro from the Sonata K545, the Sonata Facile, or an easier sonata by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. I'm going to move on to a piece of music which is great ceremony, excitement, and grandeur to it by the Norwegian composer Edvard Grieg. This is his very famous composition, The Wedding Day at Trollhaugen. I always thought that Grieg, well, I assumed that Grieg had actually written this about a wedding of his own, but it turns out he actually wrote it as a wedding anniversary to his wife, to commemorate one of their major milestones. And The Wedding Day, it's a very exciting piece in 3 sections, the first and the third being the same, with full of grandeur, excitement, and great rhythm and festivity. And in the middle section, it's much more reserved and intimate and quiet. And I think there's something very clever and quite magical that Grieg conjures up in musical terms, a kind of simulation of the exchanging of vows. You'll hear a melody, like and almost like an echo, delay, the same melody repeated lower. So it's almost as though two people would be exchanging wedding vows, though it's say exactly the same thing, but slightly after each other or to each other. It's a fascinating, a very clever musical device. Of course, in the third section, the great festivities return, and it ends up with a very exciting moment and a big calamity and crash of brilliance at the end. we go, an exciting composition, exciting end, exciting beginning, very gentle, delicate, interactive middle section, you might say. Edvard Grieg's very famous The Wedding Day at Trollhaugen. Very exciting piece. It's a really very cleverly written piece. It sits under the hands very well, and it's full of so many beautiful, rich colors. It's always a great, exciting, and wonderful piece of music to play. I'm going to move on to a piece of music by Frédéric Chopin, and also before that a key composition by Claude Debussy. Two short pieces. I thought I'd include them because the Wedding Day sets up a kind of atmosphere of great excitement and a lot of brilliance and quite big outgoing sounds. And these two pieces are quite the opposite. They're very delicate, they're very intimate, and they're very small. The first of which, Debussy's famous prelude, The Girl with the Flaxen Hair. And it's a really beautiful, it's a very short little piece of music, but there's something magical, as with all Debussy's preludes, that he captures this atmosphere, kind of, I always think of them as almost film scores, or an opportunity to paint an image or to paint an atmosphere with sound by using various references. And in this case, this girl with the flaxen hair, I think he's referring to a kind of Celtic scene of beautiful heather, mist maybe, and a beautiful young fair-haired woman. I always say that the perfect image that I think fits with this music is that very famous advert we used to have in South African TV for Cadbury's, made with a glass and a half of milk, and this very beautiful misty scene, and the old milk carried in a wooden pail, and this beautiful young woman walking through the grass, and actually apparently shot in the KZN Midlands, not far from here, but it looked very English and very Celtic and very lovely and very fascinating. And I think this is the atmosphere that Debussy tries to create in this composition. The second piece, straight after that, I'll play a nocturne by Frédéric Chopin. This time a nocturne that is often seen as a very popular piece of music, but many of the Chopin scholars see this, one of them called it that impoverished little nocturne, which is not a very nice thing, I think. But it's a beautiful piece of music, again, a piece of music that was found in Chopin's papers after his death and published much later, I think only in about 1950. And it has a very simple idea, with a reference to one of Chopin's earlier works that he composed as a young man, one of his second piano concerto, which is actually the first one he wrote. And he sort of apparently he sent this nocturne to his family in Poland. When he was in exile in France, he sent this to them, and the melody that he quoted of his own composition, I think, would have had a reference. There would have been a meaning that his family would have understood, and why he would have included this very beautiful gesture within such a poignant and such a melancholic context, because the outer sections of the piece are this wonderfully melancholic nature. It's the nocturne of his posthumous in C sharp minor, but before that, Debussy's Girl with the Flaxen Hair. That was the Nocturne in C-sharp minor, opus posthumous by Frédéric Chopin, a composition that was found in his private papers and in private documents and published only in 1950. But a very beautiful composition, very real and very powerful emotion in that piece from Chopin. And before that, The Girl with the Flaxen Hair, prelude by Claude Debussy, the French composer from the early 20th century. I'm going to play two composers, also from the early 20th century now, and these are very contrasted pieces again. As I said, I'm drawing music from very different backgrounds and very different genres and different countries. And I'm going to play music by Sergei Rachmaninoff and music by George Gershwin. Now, Rachmaninoff wrote at the age of 18 this very famous prelude, the prelude in C sharp minor. It became his most famous composition, and during the later years of his life, when Rachmaninoff lived in the United States and supported himself or made a living through numerous concerts, this very youthful and early composition, as I say, when he wrote when he was 18 or so years old, became somewhat of a curse almost, because every single concert apparently Rachmaninoff was expected to play this composition. So here is thought by many to be the greatest pianist of the 20th century, playing his own compositions as well as the music of others. But every time he plays a concert, he's expected to play this one very youthful piece of music. As effective as it is, I'm sure he got tired of it. And the audience would apparently cheer and demand encore after encore after encore until he played the prelude, because this was the prelude. This is the one that everyone expected to hear. It was his brand. And poor Rachmaninoff, when he had finished that and he decided then play the encore, get the concert over with, he wants to go out and have dinner afterwards, he would walk into the restaurant wherever he was playing, and the resident jazz band would recognize Rachmaninoff coming into the restaurant, and they'd strike up their jazz band version of the prelude, his music with a beat. So you can imagine how this piece of music followed him around wherever he went. Nevertheless, it's a very fascinating and rather extreme piece. It has these very gentle funeral atmosphere to start with. And in the middle section, there's a certain turbulence and anxiety rising before the very quiet moments of the beginning are transformed into the grandest moments at the end. And the same theme is repeated with Rachmaninoff asking the pianist to play as loud as possible. It's quite fun to play, I must be honest. It's quite an exciting piece of music, and again fits very well. Straight after that, I'm going to play two compositions by the American composer George Gershwin, brilliant genius who combined elements of classical music and jazz together in a real proper way. And these are two of his own songs that were later transcribed. He later rewrote the music for solo piano in very short versions. Two of them, The Man I Love and I Got Rhythm. But first of all, the Prelude in C sharp minor by Sergei Rachmaninoff. Gosh, that's quite hard work. Before I play the Gershwin, I think I even need a glass of water after that. So I hope you're enjoying your session at home. I hope you've got something to drink. I'm going to grab a glass of water and I'll be back in a second. You'll see I've oiled the door. The door has been oiled. And while I'm here, I'm going to just play with this quickly. There we go. So it gives me a chance while I've got my water. It is water, I promise. Many people ask me if I have a glass of wine or if I should have a glass of wine or something to drink before I play, and I found it really doesn't work. Fortunately, I've never tried to do it in a concert. But even in a social gathering, when you arrive at someone's party and you have a glass of wine and they say, well, you play the piano, can't you play something for us? And it's amazing how difficult it really is. I think I always say to people, there's a reason that drinking and driving is illegal. And it's not a good idea. So playing the piano and drinking is not to be recommended, I can assure you of that. While I got up, it also gave me a chance to facilitate with manning both sides again, the piano side and also the computer side of things this evening. And on the platform that we're working through, Vimeo, it's given me the opportunity to put up a little banner just to tell you at this point about our project. As you know, these concerts are delivered and streamed free on various platforms, Facebook, Vimeo, and our website, etc., YouTube. All for free, and we're unable to do any concerts. I'm expecting, in fact, that I probably will not be able to have any public concerts for several months. I really do think it's going to be a long time before we will be allowed to gather in large groups in confined spaces, even for something as wonderful as music. So I'm really expecting these online performances and online sessions to be a permanent fixture in our music revival future. And as all the concerts are free, we are relying entirely on the goodwill of you, the public, who are watching these performances, not only live, but also many people then watch them at our website, which has been visited by, I think, over 3,500 people in the last 30 days, not only watching the streams and the programs that we've put up there, but also the great quantity of back catalogue of our recordings that we've made available for free, and various other video productions that we've produced. So all of this, as I say, is completely free, relying entirely on the donations which have been coming in, and I am very grateful and really thrilled at the response that we've had. Thank you to everyone who has donated and supported us, either through bank transfer or through Quicket or through PayPal. Those amounts are all coming to me, and we have managed to sustain ourselves quite adequately through the first month of this. And I am now working on, as I said, the possibility of extending this into the future, because it's going to be a permanent fixture. So one of the projects that I can tell you about, is this, a Patreon account. We have a new Patreon platform. Patreon I mentioned earlier, but it's really worth going to look at patreon.com and just look for my name, Christopher Daigan. And it's a wonderful way of being able to support us by a monthly donation, donating the same amount every month. At the moment, it's set at $11. And that means your credit cards will be debited with that amount on a monthly basis, supporting all of these live streams and supporting all of these projects that we are bringing together. But also, as a registered patron on that platform, you will have access to a lot of other information that I will be providing, written documents, behind the scenes videos, explanations, more detailed and in-depth explanations of the works that I'll be playing. So do have a visit. We look forward to seeing you there. And yeah, we should be back in the room. There we go. Marvels of technology. So, as I said, Gershwin, the music of Gershwin. Here are two song transcriptions. This is The Man I Love and I Got Rhythm. Sweet. Very dramatic and brilliant little ending there to Gershwin's own versions of his songs, The Man I Love and I Got Rhythm. I think I'll have to practice that second one a little bit more. We'll have to include it in a week or two's time. Got away from me a little bit there. Tricky little piece, needs a bit more work. It's quite I must be honest, it's quite a taxing task. It's a big task actually. Playing two programs. I've been playing two programs a week. It's two recitals of between 40 and 60 minutes a week for the past 6 weeks. And I think I've only repeated one piece of music that was 4 or 5 minutes long. So there's a lot of music up here, and it's always just remembering and checking that it's there, checking that everything's in place, and in between everything else, it's a lot of practicing and a lot of work. But I've got some exciting programs coming up, including something quite special on Saturday night when I'll be playing some music by Alexander Scriabin and some music by Mozart, another sonata in F major. So I'd like to end off this evening's session with another of my original pieces, not quite mine, actually a spontaneous improvisation, but not quite spontaneous, so there's a mixture of various things. So as I said before, one of the sessions I've been encouraged and been toying with this possibility of improvising in public, or in this case live, and just seeing, it's quite a daunting moment. You know, as a classical musician, you are really very focused on the notes, the exact notes, and a very particular sequence of learning those notes and really playing the same precise, precision-orientated performance. Whereas improvising is completely the opposite, and spontaneous improvising, in other words, I'm not really sure, I'm not improvising on a melody as such, or really have any structure to it. I'm just guessing to see what's going to happen and let the mood take me. And I'm going to do an improvisation. I have a feeling of doing something in E flat major this evening, and I'm going to just play and see what happens and see what I can bring out of this feel and out of the mood. So let's see what happens. It could be really dreadful. I hope not, though. There we go. Well, that was a spontaneous improvisation. I chose the key of E flat major, and it seemed to be almost like a Christmas feel to it. I'm not quite sure why. It sounded like one of those well-known Christmas songs, not quite a carol, but it had a Christmassy feel to it. Maybe it's a wishful hope that we are reaching the end of this lockdown period. It certainly is the last day, I think, for South Africa this evening, and things change slightly for tomorrow from the 1st of May. We think the 1st of May is great. It's a public holiday. Yay, we can stay at home. We've been staying at home for a long time already, so it's not going to change. But that does give you opportunity to wish everyone a happy Workers' Day. I'm sure everyone is working still. And thank you for joining me this evening. Thank you for supporting all of those who've donated and supported in the last 4 or 5 weeks that we've been running this Don't Stop the Music, #Don't Stop the Music campaign. Just a reminder, you can find all our details at our website, musicrevival.co.za, as well as the link to our new Patreon page. Patreon, very exciting project. It also really gives me the opportunity to share some more intimate details and more personal details and personal views with you as an audience, because it's not just open to the whole wide world, it's only open to those who are really interested. So for me, it's a very exciting possibility and exciting project ahead. So thank you for joining me tonight. It's almost 10 to 7, just gone 10 to 7, and we look forward to seeing you if you can and like to join us again on Saturday evening at 6 p.m. for In Concert, which is a more classical program. I'll be playing music by Schumann, Mozart and Alexander Scriabin. Very exciting program there. So thank you for joining us. Keep well and have a good evening.